right now, 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 right now. Oh, I got a real good feeling, got a real good feeling, like there is lightning deep in my bones. Yeah, I got a real good feeling, I won't hit no ceiling, I'm going higher than I've ever known. Yeah, I got a real good feeling, got a real good feeling, like there is lightning deep in my bones. Yeah, I got a real good feeling, I won't hit no ceiling, I'm going higher than I've ever known. I got a real good feeling.
Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, welcome to Altcoins Anonymous. Today we are going to be talking about the cryptocurrency Avalanche. We're going to be talking about how this cryptocurrency might be set up for a 5x potential, 400 to 500% returns in the next year or so. We've got a lot of great fundamentals to talk about on this project. I'm going to be going over first in our first segment over the next 10 minutes or so the technicals on this project. Then I'm going to be bringing in a very special guest, which I'll introduce here in a second, to talk about the fundamentals. Then for the last 10 minutes or so, we're going to be looking at chat. I'm going to be answering any questions that you guys have about this project. We've got a great show lined up for you today, guys. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's see if we can't get to 500 likes here in the first couple of minutes. I am joined today by a favorite and a good friend of the Crypto Jeb team, Kelly Kellam. How are you doing, Kelly?
Doing right on, man. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Heck yeah, welcome, man. We're going to be talking about Avalanche today. I'm really looking forward to diving into it. Kelly, can you give a little bit of background about yourself, how you ended up working with us and helping us put together Coffee and Crypto and everything? Give us like a 45-second rundown of your history and where you come from and what you're doing here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've basically dove headfirst into the crypto market in mid to late 2016. And it initially, I mean, almost absolutely just consumed my entire life very quickly after that. I mean, I just saw how not only is it going to be a financial thing, like I think a lot of people thought it was early on, but it's going to revolutionize every single industry in the world, everything from politics to the way shoes are made to art to finance to dApps, dApps for DeFi and all these sorts of things. Early on in my basically journey, I wanted to learn as much as I could, so I spent every hour of every day watching every single YouTuber I could find. And back in 2016, 2017, 2018, there was very few initially, and then one day early on a cold winter's morning in 2018, I stumbled upon the Crypto Jeb show, and I just really liked how direct and honest and how much integrity he did his entire show with. So I stuck with him since then in terms of following him online, along with a number of other YouTube streamers. And I guess a couple months ago, or maybe only 2 months ago now, I joined a webinar that Crypto Jeb and crew were doing, and I spoke during the webinar, and basically we reached out to each other after that and found a good friendship between each other, similar sort of core values and integrity, humility, and the desire to really dive in and understand things so we can share it with other people and help other people. And so we basically formed a friendly partnership to begin with, and I started building all the research and content development for the morning show, and started with a very basic sort of interactions between us, and it just kept growing over time, and it keeps on growing between us and snowballing, and now here I am, talking with your community. Thank you for having me.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for coming today, Kelly. We are going to have a great talk. We'll bring you back in about 10 minutes. We're going to go into the technical analysis on Avalanche really quickly. Guys, everything he just said I think is worth a like. Go ahead and smash that like button. Before we jump into the technical analysis, though, I do have to introduce our producer, Smay. How you doing, Smay?
Hi, everybody. You thought he wouldn't introduce me today, but no, I'm here, guys. I'm here. And yes, that's all I have to say. Yep.
There you go. Smay, we are having a scheduling change tomorrow. What should the audience know about that?
That the show is actually going to happen at 2:30.
Instead of 3:30.
So, 2:30. We're moving it up.
Yes, indeed.
So that's exciting. Look forward to that, guys.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Well, make sure to look forward to that. Make sure to tune in 2:30 tomorrow. Altcoins Anonymous is the one-stop shop where we talk about everything that is not Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Cardano. So make sure to tune in for that.
Wait. I actually have something.
What do you have?
I have something, guys.
What do you have, Smay?
Listen, if you probably saw the show this morning. But if you didn't, I said something that's very important. If you are a member of our YouTube membership program, go to the community tab on our channel and fill out the form linked. You'll see the post. That is how your guys are going to claim your perks. If you do not fill it out, you will not get your perks. And there's only a week left in September, so the clock's ticking. Please, 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 please get on there, fill it out, so we can send you your perks, because we really want to send you your perks. We don't want you to not get your perks.
Boom
so
sauce.
Please fill it out.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and dive into this technical analysis. I want to show you the Avalanche chart. Like I said, we're going to talk about the fundamentals here in a little bit, and we're going to talk about at the end of the show where myself and Kelly think that this market is going and whether or not this is something that you should be looking to trade and invest in. But first things first, we want to look at the chart. We're going to start here on AVAX over US dollar tether, but even before that, I want to bring up CoinMarketCap. For anyone who has never seen Avalanche, it shows up as number 12 on CMC. It currently has a $15 billion market capitalization and a circulating supply of 220 million. Those are some basic numbers that you guys should know. It's currently trading at $68. You thought. It's currently trading at $68, and it had a big rally over the last couple of months. We bottomed out at $10 here on AVAX on the 20th of July, and over the span of 65 days, it rallied 750%. Now, I've gone on record on previous shows saying that I think what happened to AVAX is very similar to what happened to Cardano during the last part of last year. Cardano rallied from September of 2020 all the way through February of 2021, 2,000% in 160 days. I think a similar thing has happened on AVAX. I've already talked about that, but I want to catch you up on my opinion on the cryptocurrency. Now, what we want to talk about here has to do with some shorter term technicals. The first thing to bring up is this. AVAX currently finds itself, AVAX being the ticker symbol for Avalanche, the cryptocurrency that we're talking about here, is currently in a rising wedge. You can see that forming here on the daily chart with a high set on the 23rd of August, which was my birthday, and then here on the 17th of September, and then also on the 23rd of September. There's also an uptrending level of support here on AVAX, and that does mean that we are in what is known as a rising wedge. Rising wedges, statistically speaking, are more likely to break to the downside, which is not necessarily a very bullish sign. And another thing to look at here on AVAX are these two candlesticks right here. 18th of September and 19th of September 2021, we saw a very long upper shadow on both of these candlesticks. Not necessarily something that is going to make you feel very bullish. Why? Because when those long upper shadows, those long upper wicks occur, then essentially what you're seeing is that the bulls attempted to rally us. The bears said, no, actually, you're going to hold down, and then the bears took back power from the bulls. So that's what those long upper shadows mean. Not necessarily a great thing. However, there is something that is pretty bullish on this, and this is actually something Kelly pointed out to me before the stream started, so shout out to Kelly, and that is the fact that we are currently in a cup and handle formation on the daily chart. It is a massive cup and handle formation here on AVAX. I can show you this chart just like this. There's an uptrending level of resistance using March the 20th of 2021. AVAX was trading at $40 flat then, and then the 15th of April, tax day here, everybody's least favorite day in America, AVAX was trading at $42. Then there's another touch here on the 8th of May at $45, and then there's another touch here on the around $58 on the 25th of August. So that uptrending level of resistance forms the top of the cup and handle formation. Then we have our cup, which is right here, and then there is our descending trading channel right here that the cup and handle forms. And then obviously, if you guys have watched the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, we talk about cup and handle formations. You do a price target just like this. You measure from the very bottom to the very top, and then you take this and you extrapolate here, and then guess what? That's predicting that we should go to around $80 to $90 on AVAX. Currently, we've gone to 81. So in the current moment, it looks like AVAX is following through on a bullish pattern, which is a good thing. However, there is a little bit of contradictory technical stuff. There are a few contradictory technicals going on here on the chart. The first is that we should be expecting at least a little bit more run to the upside here on AVAX USD because of the cup and handle. But if we look at the daily chart here on AVAX, there's an uptrending level of resistance and a downtrending level of resistance on the RSI. That indicates bearish RSI divergence, and we actually have a bearish MACD cross coming in here on the daily chart as well. So let's wrap this all up in a nice, neat bow, and then we'll talk about the fundamentals. What is AVAX doing right now? It is in an 800% rally to the upside. The cup and handle formation predicted an $80 to $90 AVAX. That's essentially what we've seen. AVAX right now, if we go back to CoinMarketCap, is currently sitting at a $15 billion valuation, whereas other cryptocurrencies similar to it, and we'll talk about what those other cryptocurrencies look like here in a second, are sitting around $350 billion like Ethereum, or $69 billion, nice, like Cardano, or Solana, $42 billion. Avalanche Avalanche, as I think, we're going to argue here in a second, might be even better at its own game than some of those other projects. It is sitting at a fraction of the valuation of some other cryptocurrencies that are in its same weight class. However, even though the fundamentals might be very bullish, and we will talk about that here in a second, the technicals don't lie. We've gone through a massive rally. We are currently at some phase of a price discovery mode, at some part of a price discovery phase where Avalanche is rallying from $10 all the way up, trying to figure out, are we going to trade sideways at $100? Are we going to trade sideways at $300? The market has undergone a massive rally. We saw RSI pump to 97. I don't remember the last time I saw anything hit 97 on the RSI. MACD's bearish. In fact, Lux Algo is bullish, but it did have a sell signal right here. There's a lot of things that are bullish on Avalanche right now, but it has rallied very far, and there are some technical indicators telling us, okay, this can't go on forever. We need to have a correction. So with that said, Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and bring you in here because I want to talk a little bit about the fundamentals. And frankly, you are the person here who knows a lot more about the fundamentals of Avalanche than I can. So I'm going to let you explain what it is and why people should be interested in it. But first, do you think that Avalanche is done with its price discovery? Do you think that we are going to be able to go like way above $100 relatively? We'll get into price predictions in a second, but do you think that Avalanche is done with this run?
No, I don't. I think it's definitely going to be very contingent on, as we talked about this morning, you spoke about this morning's show, the biggest indicator in the crypto market is the Bitcoin price. So
that was your point.
Bitcoin clearly right now is in a, I don't want to say a deciding sort of deciding framework at the moment, but the next 2 weeks or so, especially going out of this month and going into October, it has a huge sort of indication about what direction the market as a whole is going to go. I think you and I, as well as a lot of the, very notable other technical analysts and streamers that are in the market and across YouTube and other pundits on different media sources, it's general consensus that it's very unlikely that this is the end of this bull cycle. I think there's, for me, my sort of thoughts on it is it's going to go probably somewhere into February, March. That being the case, moving with that sort of idea, that sort of framework around our discussion here, I think that Avalanche, along with many other the altcoins, have a hell of a lot more room to the upside to go. And with Avalanche specifically, we mentioned it a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when the article that we had on the morning show regarding Charles Hoskinson referencing the biggest boost to the crypto market will be when we have that Wi-Fi moment, when we have the interoperability moment, the plug and play moment, to where even now, to us, a lot of us people that have been in the crypto game for a long time, crypto has become very easy. However, I'm getting my father into crypto, and my sister and other family members and newcomers to the marketplace. And it's a huge slap of humility in my own face each time I try to discuss these different things with them, because I and you and other people that have been in this game for several years have seen how much easier it has become. But it's immediately apparent when we try to get somebody new into the space, it still has a lot of hurdles. And so not only with developers, but users, both need that Wi-Fi moment, both need the ability to not develop extensively with hundreds of thousands of hours developing a dApp on one blockchain, only to realize this other blockchain has a much better throughput, much better functionality, cheaper fees, all these different things. Then on the user side, how easy is it going to be to use? Is it safe? Is it protected? Do I have to know code to figure out how to do a MetaMask? So with all these things, very quickly, like the speed is becoming more and more exponential, and how we can basically improve the functionality in the UI, the user interfaces, and the executability of all these different things. So as I see this exponentially growing, there is a tremendous upside. And for this specific second half of the bull market, for Avalanche specifically, and referencing back to what I mentioned a couple moments ago with Hoskinson talking about the Wi-Fi moment, Avalanche is a great example of a project that is directly targeting that exact thing. I mean, the chain itself is designed to be exponentially scalable without having a lot of bottlenecking of speed, or having stuff that happened like on the Solana project, where they got bottlenecked with their transactions per second because of a glitch in the way the NFTs were all basically, you know what I mean? Scaling up to all of a sudden having 400,000 transactions trying to go through in 1 second. Well, Avalanche, for example, to give a great point, the way that their protocol is designed is they have, you know, their primary network, but then that's basically the chassis of the entire protocol. But the primary network then operates by having basically an infinite number of subnets that can operate on top of that. Each subnet is basically divided into 3 separate blockchains that target and manage the flow of 3 different parts of their functionality. So it allows for that very quick, transactions per second in 3 different distinct ways, from the execution of the smart contracts, from the execution of just processing and validating the transactions. And then also, you can have customizable virtual machines that you can immediately plug and play, put emulators on there to immediately, for developers, immediately run Ethereum dApps and those sorts of things. So when you're needing to operate on multiple blockchains, different sorts of, not only the scripting protocol, the coding, but also these very different types of transactions, Avalanche is, like, as I've just described, I mean, it is set up directly for that sort of framework.
So how would you, because you've done a great job of explaining this, but how would you, if you were explaining that, because we have some questions. Let me just read one of these right here. JSO Burbeck. Great question, my friend. I'm going to read it. I start to realize that as I talk to my family, I know next to nothing. I know way more, but I know way more than the average person. And then we also had another comment. Crypto JITT said, I love what he's saying. It is so difficult to explain to someone who is new to crypto. How would we go about explaining Avalanche to a new crypto investor, or would you even do that in the first place? What is the simplest way to explain Avalanche's differentiation from its competitors? Because there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that you can run decentralized applications and NFTs on. I think, based on everything we've talked about, that Avalanche might be one of the best solutions, but try and explain in 2 sentences, because I love putting guardrails on people so they have to explain it simply. In 2 sentences, why would people invest in Avalanche when there's Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, all these other projects?
Avalanche has the benefit that it's not the first mover like Ethereum. And although that could be a detriment in some ways, the benefit is it can learn from the mistakes of all these. I don't want to necessarily call them mistakes, but it can learn from the hurdles that a lot of these chains have faced early on. And with that, they were able to very cleverly and very beautifully design a protocol that is a division of labor. So it's like walking into a bank. You don't have one person, or a restaurant. You don't have one person that seats you, serves you, cooks the food, washes the dishes, processes the transactions. You have you're diversifying the workload in many different areas, that each area has its own training and identified person or utility that takes on each specific task.
Yeah, the way you explained it to me, and I thought this was really cool, this really made it click in my head, is, guys, what Avalanche essentially does, and Kelly, you feel free to correct me here if I'm wrong in any way, but what Avalanche essentially does is it splits up the types of transactions that run through on the blockchain, so you're not doing decentralized applications and DAOs and NFTs and transactions and all these things on the blockchain, and you said that it's like having a highway, a canal, and a train line running through the city, so that you split up the cargo so that it's more specified, and then the city, in this case Avalanche, is able to specialize a lot better. Is that a good way of explaining to people the use case of Avalanche?
It's excellent. It's
your analogy.
It's an integrated distribution of traffic and information on a variety of different mediums, like you said, railway, road, canal, train, all that sort of stuff. But then the kicker there, the scalable exponential factor, is the fact that you can do an infinite number of subnets, and each one of those then has its own road, railway, so it's essentially each subnet can do approximately 4,500 transactions per second. Mm-hmm. That's based on the lower base model computing system that you can actually scale it up to about 10,000 transactions per second if you have a more comprehensive, better system and processing unit that's running that network. And I should say, each one of these things, you basically have the P chain, the C chain, and the X chain on each one of these subnets. And then the more you scale up those subnets, you're not going to have a bottlenecking of whatever transactions or NFTs or whatever it is. You just add another subnet, and then all of a sudden you're diffusing the workload on each one of those things. So it basically is self-governing in terms of the speed of the system based on the number of people that are involved in it.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Guys, let's go ahead and read a super chat real quick. Matt C., who is a longtime fan, he was also in the webinar that we met Kelly in. So thank you very much to Matt C. for his super chat and all of the ones that came before. He said, Avalanche may just be like Apple. Never a first mover, but always been great at taking those new ideas to the next level. Great to see you, Kelly. Indeed, great to see Kelly. Drop a 1 in chat if you're loving all the wisdom and knowledge that Kelly is dropping. And also, guys, make sure to smash that like button. We got about 500 people watching and 165 likes. That's actually a good number of likes. I mean, a lot of you guys hit it, but I know we can get it higher. Go ahead and smash that like button. Kelly, what do you think about that analogy from Avalanche to Apple?
I think it's right on. You know, I mean, it's not always best to be the first one there. It's great for the pride and great for the ego, but at the end of the day, it's very similar to Cardano in the respect that they're taking their time. They're making sure that the way they're trying to construct an architecture to deliver the best service and the best functionality to users and developers and scalability, so they're not great now and suck in 5 years. I mean, I think I would prefer that over something that pops, you know, early on, and then basically the bottom falls out of it in a few years because there's so many other protocols that have learned or have had the ability to outperform that first mover, because first movers a lot of times don't have the foresight to figure out how their architecture is going to be designed to make it as scalable as they need, because early on you don't even have an idea what the potential things that it can be scaled to do. Like, nobody thought about or was really implementing NFTs when Ethereum was developed, you know, early in it
wasn't built for NFTs,
2015, 2016, you know. So now we have an idea, and it's like we see all these possibilities, but not only do we see the possibilities, the benefit of seeing the growth and possibility now gives developers that are building on these protocols to realize you have to build for an exponential use case, which is critical. And I think Avalanche is set up in a prime position to take that on. But there's a number of other projects on the market that do that as well. I just think that Avalanche does that much better than Polkadot and Cosmos and Phantom, and they all have their own individual things. And we'll go over each individual one when we focus on them and on further shows. But I love this project.
Well,
I think its upside is to the moon in this cycle.
I think it's a little bit like when the Europeans came over and colonized America. You know, Jamestown was the first. I think it was the first colony, or Plymouth, whichever one was the first. It was the first colony, right? But that's not even a city anymore. New York is the largest city in the continental United States, in the United States of America. It wasn't founded until like 200 years later, because we just got here. Like, we don't know where the best location to settle a city is. We don't understand what we're doing. We don't know what this continent's all about. We don't know what else wealth. And then what we see happen is that, I'm not even going to address that. What we see happen is that after you see that now that you understand the continent a little bit, you realize, oh, okay, this is exactly where we should put a city, and this is exactly where we should put a city, because I now have context. And I think that's a great point.
But
go ahead.
You know, that's a great example there, because if you like, I live in New York City. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I've also I've traveled the world over back, you know, when I was doing music and events and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that immediately stands out in this sort of example is New York is an incredible city, but it is like the streets are falling apart, and the construction never stops because they're always trying to fix the broken things, but also upgrade the roads, the plumbing, all these sorts of things. But you go to somewhere like Singapore or Toronto or Tokyo or all these places. Yes, those cities are older, but we as America was one of the first countries to really develop huge modern infrastructure. Now that was great. We were a first mover, but now it's a taxpayer and a political nightmare to figure out how to address, like we're doing right now in government, trying to figure out this infrastructure plan, and nobody wants to spend money on it. But we have to upgrade these things to catch up to these people that developed afterwards.
Yeah, and I think the critical thing is that when you're developing something, you can't plan 200 years in the future or however long it is in the future. Ethereum right now is trying to figure out how to run modern problems with 5-year-ago solution when blockchain is moving lightning speed. Let's move on here really quickly, though, because we don't have a lot of time left. I want to thank Rick4962, Yard Dog himself. He just donated $400. I think that might be the biggest donation we have ever received here on the Crypto Jab Chat. That might be a record. I think there's a way that we can go back and check that, but Rick, I think that might be a record. I think he was just on the phone with Tim, actually. Tim told me he was on the phone with Mr. Yard Dog himself. He says, our Heavenly Father, the Lord Jesus Christ, is the way, absolutely, sir, the way, the truth, and the life. Make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel if you guys are enjoying today's show, and drop a heart in chat for Rick. I very much appreciate that. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and read... let's go ahead and read some chat and see what all ties in here. I hated to cut you off there, Kelly. I really apologize, but I wanted to read that chat. Let's see. Smay, you had some thoughts about Polkadot, actually, that you wanted to bring up here. What are your thoughts about the Polkadot versus Avalanche argument while I read chat?
Well, I'm more so, I just wanted to ask Kelly, like, could you explain to everybody why Polkadot is better than Avalanche? Just because I feel like you would know the argument better, so just explain to everybody why Polkadot is the better investment, and I think that would help a lot of people.
Goose. So. Well, I can't agree with you that it's better. And I actually was speaking with Jeb about this before we got on, that, one of the things I want to change is words like that in this space, like better than, killer, like none of these things are relevant. It's more like what is best used for each use case. In terms of Avalanche versus Polkadot, or how they compare, Polkadot is a fantastic project. I own Polkadot. It's a very exciting project. Cosmos as well. But the difference, one of the biggest differences is really the scalability of Avalanche versus Polkadot. There's also faster transaction speeds between the two. And then also one of the other pretty remarkable things with how robust the Avalanche protocol is how fast the finality of transaction is. It can sometimes, depending on what's going on in the network, be sub 1 second, typically up to about 3 seconds for finality. Now, when you send Bitcoin to somebody, to yourself or to somebody else, it might take 10 minutes to send, but sometimes it could take up to an hour for the transaction to be finalized on the chain. Sometimes I remember a couple of years ago when there's some periods of congestion on the network, it'd be 7 hours.
Yep.
Avalanche has a 3-second finality time, and it's just the scalability is just incredible, and the interoperability and the ability to plug and play, and also create virtual machines and customize on the various networks, the subnets that you put on there. You can also, as you're setting them up on each subnet, you can pick if you want a certain one of the chains on the subnet to be proof of work or proof of stake. So it's vastly, it's just the customization on it and the ability to implement so many different features, I think, is what makes it unique compared to Polkadot.
I think that's awesome, and I think there's a lot of great things that we can learn by comparing cryptocurrencies, but we don't need to fall into this trap of saying this one's going to kill this one, because I think all of them have their own place in the market, so I would definitely agree with you there. With that said, Mix-Up AGA says, will AVAX kill Solana? What do you think about Solana? What do you think about the Solana project? Because a lot of people do compare these, and like you said, we don't want to get into the game of saying, this is going to kill this. They both have their own deal, but since a lot of people do compare those two, what do you think about that comparison? Is it valid?
I don't like Solana. Just
really?
Want to throw that out there.
Well, I think Solana is a pretty phenomenal project. I think they have a lot of growing pains. I think they were opposite in terms of the rollout framework compared to, like, for instance, Cardano, where Cardano was, they researched, academically, mathematically proved every single thing they did along the way, which really made them to be slow to bring all their functionality to market, where Solana was a little bit faster in how they got their project out there. But I will say, and I was, Jeb and I were mentioning this earlier, that I do think that this huge run up that Solana had leading, in the last couple months was large in part, mostly institutional investments coming in. Whereas Avalanche, they've had a huge run up, and I feel like the majority, I think there's a lot of, there is some institutional money there, but the retail money far outweighs the institutional money in the run up for Avalanche, which means it's grown. I don't remember how far it was back a couple months ago, but it's already up in the number 12 spot.
Yeah.
Once it gets past that top 10, that barrier, there's a weird sort of psychological thing that happens once something gets in the top 10. It basically becomes almost, I won't quite call it a blue chips sort of thing like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum's kind of recently taken that sort of nomenclature. But once it gets up into the top 10, it's going to have a lot more serious institutional eyes looking at it. And if we've already run up this far with retail investments, I mean, just the sky's the limit going into the second half of this. And furthermore, guys, remember, this second half of the cycle doesn't mean that's the rest of crypto. In terms of all these cycles, there's still hundreds of years left ahead of us. So don't be so focused on exactly only what's happening right now, whether this is going to have a second half of the bull cycle or not. Because at the end of the day, even if it doesn't, worst case, you hold on to your coins for 2.5 years or so, and you'll be back at the all-time highs from this year and then going way far above it. So pay attention, watch these sorts of streams, ask your friends, do your research. And you can time things and trade well, do that, but don't get yourself overburdened or jump into something that you're not super comfortable with and then lose money. I was telling Jeb, I lost the first $70,000 I ever had when I really initially got into crypto because I started getting too sure of myself. I had some really good trades. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to make this easier and better by doing leverage trading. And I lost nearly 95% of all the money that I had saved. And then I used that, and I in my mind, I wanted to jump off a cliff, not realistically. But then I realized, you know what? No, that's just the most beautiful and frustrating tuition money that I've ever had to pay. And I basically paid university crypto. I lost my butt. And then it made me understand risk management. So just pay attention, and all these projects have a lot of room to go.
There you go.
We got so many more coins to dive into on future Altcoins Anonymous.
Boom. Well, guys, make sure to go and follow Kelly at Kelly Kellam. Smay, can you put that Twitter handle in chat unless it's in the description? Make sure to put that in chat.
I can't type.
Oh, I got it. Okay, I got it real quick. Kelly Kellam, go follow him. We want to get him to 20,000 followers on Twitter, and I think he deserves it because he's got a lot of great insight. But guys, that's all we got for you today. Where do we think AVAX is going to go? I really do think that it's going to 5x from here, guys. If it did, it would be sitting up right below Ethereum. Now, I don't think that's going to happen overnight, but I do think that AVAX has a very, very beautiful future based on all the fundamentals that you just heard Kelly and all the technicals that you heard me talk about. I think it's got a great run ahead of it, so make sure to go ahead and check out this project. I think you were getting in early on something that is going to be very bullish, even if in the next couple of weeks it doesn't do very well because of the ascending triangle, the ascending wedge that we talked about, and the bearish MACD cross. I think in the long run, you're going to be good if you are holding this project. I think there's a lot more room to run, but guys, that's all we got to run with today, so make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Before I go, though, guys, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.